What's up? Hello. Good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing well. This is a bit of an odd hour for me to be streaming. I recognize this, and that is partly because I will not be here this Thursday. So as you guys have heard me talk several times in the past, I will be in or at the ICC event this coming weekend. And my flight, excuse me, I'm really tired. My flight leaves at like 5 in the morning on Friday, and I want to spend as much time with my family as I can because they were gone this past weekend. So yes, I will not be here this Thursday, but I did have quite a few people message me and asking me to cover this MVPS layout as well as another, which we'll cover in the next stream in like an hour-ish or so. But I wanted to run through this layout really quickly. I know I have quite a few people in the Discord server and in this community that are out of Florida who probably are going to be playing in this event. So I would love to cover this. I think it'll be a fun one to look at. A couple things at the top of this. If you guys are watching this right now live, please be sure to hit the like button. I think the only way that you can't hit the like button is if you are watching it on a TV. But if you're watching it on your phone, if you're watching it on your desktop, please hit the like button. It does help me out a lot. MVPS layout looks so much fun. Excited to play it. Yeah, it does actually look pretty sweet. So yeah, please hit the like button. It does help me out a lot. It gets the video spread. It helps the YouTube algorithm in getting this video out there. But also, if you guys have been longtime viewers and haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It does help me out a great deal. And if you want to support me in other ways, click the join button and see how you can become a member. And also, I say this every time, please join the Discord server. We're almost at 500 people within the community, which is exciting and awesome, but we have about 2,800 subscribers. So we need more people in there. We do quite a few things together. We share paintball videos and clips. We talk about video games, entertainment, new movies, trailers that are coming out, stuff like that. So please be sure to join the Discord server. If you want me to cover really anything on stream, that's where I ask, and I think that's probably where I'll move to getting clips from people to review on stream. The email address is still available, but it's just not really working very well, so I think the Discord server will work even better. With that out of the way though, let's get into the layout here really quick and go through the same things that we do every time we look at a layout, which the very first thing we do. Now, just so you guys know, I generally speaking do not do any prep beforehand for these layouts. So I've literally seen the overhead view of this layout, and that is it. And the reason I don't do that because I like to be unprepared, but I do that because I try to show you guys that this stuff can be done on the fly fairly easily. And obviously, if this is, this layout just dropped, nobody's played it yet, very likely. So a lot of what I'm going to be telling you is stuff to try out. And I think that that's better served as a kind of an impromptu first impression sort of thing. But it also allows for you guys to spot things as I go over it, right? So as we always do, the very first thing is we draw the zones in which we would likely find everybody in the breakout. Okay. So this top zone, we'd likely find the Dorito 1 here. We'd likely find the Dorito 2 in this zone, with also possibly including this can. The number 3 can be in a lot of different places, especially depending on which side of the field you want to push and or pull up short on. It's probably very likely that we'll just find the number 2 in this juice box as well as the corner, and then the number 1 somewhere in these. Usually when we draw the number 1, we're making an assumption that they're taking the snake off the break, and if we don't, we should be able to see that, right? So this is likely where we'll find everybody within, the first 5 seconds of the point, again, with a few exceptions of one side or the other pulling up short. So in the case of the snake, if they don't go to the snake off break, they would probably go to this can, or they go to the corner, and that would also dictate where the number 2 would go. With these zones drawn, then what we can do, I'll just share with you guys, I'll kind of repeat myself for people who are kind of newish to the content. The reason that we draw these zones and we have names for them. So, and you could certainly chop this zone up a little bit more if you wanted, but the purpose of the zones is to help you understand, especially your front guys, when they should be wrapping and going and moving up the field to then close out the point very quickly. So the reason that this zone is so large, for example, is because if somebody's not in the snake and you have someone in the snake, the exercise of you, or having that intel is very important to then getting to the 50 right away, right? So we label it within Bro Army. We label these zones as Arizona, Oklahoma, Texas. You could also call it Utah, but in this case, we'll call it Texas. And then this is Nevada and Iowa. If you want a simplified version of this without the middle stuff, you could just do Dragon, or is it Dragon? I think it is Dragon, and Charger. So Dragon and Charger is another one that people use for Dorito and Snake. So with that out of the way, the next thing I like to do is just take a look at the back line as you run out to each corner and see what kind of shots exist, either shots that you can shoot or shots that are coming at you. So, and I'm mostly looking for very easy shots, okay? There's a gap here, not easy for you to shoot, but easy to shoot into, maybe? Okay, no, you'd have to step off or play the blind spot. So you could, a center guy could take a knee or just stand here and shoot into this gap and potentially shoot the number 2 that's running here. It's always possible to shoot the number 1, but usually when you're shooting some kind of inside primary bunker that's right off the gate, you're usually trying to shoot the number 2 because they are very likely running with their gun up, whereas the number 1 is going to be hard to hit because they're likely running with their gun down. But if we wanted to shoot the number 1, we could just as easily put paint into this zone, again standing in this kind of dead zone area behind this brick, and likely kill the number 1 that way, going to the snake. So as we continue to move out, you could shoot back at the home, which is always something to consider. So for example, if you want to improve or increase your survivability running out to corners, you can either run with your gun down and hope to beat the guns that are going to be shooting at you, or you can shoot back at the people that are shooting at you as a way to make it less of a 30% survivability versus 70% chance of dying. You could possibly lower that number to like 40, 60, or even 50-50, depending on how accurate you are and where they're going to be standing to shoot at you. So T-Box, welcome, buddy. So for example, it might be that, I mean, this is a bit of a smaller gap, but it might be that the way that people are shooting at you as you run to the snake corner is in this open area that we talked about. It's actually probably more right here. And if they decide to stand there and then move up to the middle, your chances of surviving the corner run are going to be much greater if you actually shoot back at this guy than if you would be to try and dodge his gun. Because if you especially start to shoot this person off the break, it's going to make them less confident in being able to stand in this dead box shooting at you in the corner, right? This little dead zone. It's a lot less safe to do so if when the guy runs out to the corner, he's also shooting back at you. Okay? So running out to the corner, it's pretty straight up. Heads up fight, it looks like. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. Oh, that's not great. Sorry about that, guys. I'm not sure what's causing that. Let me know if the stream is causing issues. So anyway, the other thing that we like to consider when we run out to the primary bunkers for where the number 2s will be on either side of the field, which in this case is probably going to be this bunker and this bunker. The number 2 could also run to the corner, but we already did that exercise. The other thing to consider is what sort of cross shots exist as we run out to these bunkers, because otherwise the number 2s are going to shoot heads up. It buffered as you read that. Okay. Well, hopefully, let me know if it keeps causing issues. Hopefully it will fix itself. I have been having internet problems the last 48 hours or so. I'm not sure why. So generally speaking, we play kind of 2v2s on either sides of the field as kind of a basic rule of thumb, with the middle guy supporting one of these 2v2s. Okay, so making it potentially a 3v2 on one side or the other. And that's again telling us that the number 2s are going to be generally speaking looking heads up, but some layouts are laid out in such a way that the number 2s actually have better shots cross field. So that's the next thing that we look at, is where the number 2s will have better shots cross, or if they have better shots heads up. So the number 2s have a pretty decent shot heads up to try and shoot each other as they're going into this gap. And it actually works because when you shoot, your paint's going to kind of curve like this as you run this direction. What's really hard is to shoot at the home unless you're going really wide, because your paint is going to want to do this as you run, and it means that you get further and further away from where you're trying to hit. And the way you correct for that is to shoot even harsher, right? So I might actually aim my barrel this direction as I run here, because my paint is going to start arcing in that direction, if that makes sense. So this is actually not a terrible shot to shoot heads up at each other. You could also potentially, this would be a tough shot, but you could also possibly shoot the snake runner as you're going out to this bunker. But that looks to be probably your only chance of shooting the snake runner if you're trying to go to this juice box, because they're likely going to be diving by the time you get to the bunker. Again, if you're wanting to shoot the snake runner, it's probably better to do that from the home, because it's a very easy shot to do so, or very open shot, I would say. So let's look at the cross shot. If you were to start at the gate right here, kind of where you typically expect to, you also have a pretty decent gap, a very decent gap, in fact, right here to shoot if you wanted to take a knee. And what you could do is you could have, for example, you could have your home guy shoot for the snake runner because it's a very open gap, and then you could have the number 2 off the gate shoot this gap right here and have some kind of decent cross coverage. Obviously, you're not worried about running into each other, and neither of these people are going to be running off the break. So what I'm getting so far is that this dead zone right here is pretty important in how you choose to play it. So just don't feel like you have to run out to the juice box as the number 2 every single point, or run out to the corner bunker every point. I would actually say that it would probably be better for you to stay at the home or stay at the dead zone as the number 2 on the snake side and shoot either of these gaps until your opponents start picking up on that and shooting back at you. Okay, that's generally speaking how dead zones are played, especially at lower divisions. At lower divisions, sometimes you'll never get shot up the center because home guys are like, if this home guy is primarily concerned about shooting the snake off the break every time, then they're not likely going to be shooting up the middle. But one thing you home guys in higher divisions will recognize is that the distance that this front snake player has to run is quite far before you actually even see him. So for example, if the very first thing you do is shoot right here off the break, you'll actually have probably about 10 balls at most, or somewhere between 5 and 10 balls already sent here well before the snake guy even gets into that zone, which means that you have about 3 to 5 balls worth of paint that you could shoot up the middle before you'd have to transition your gun here. And that's something that you home guys should definitely be doing, where right off the break, put your first 3 to 5 balls here at most, and then shoot the rest of your paint right here. And if you do that, you'll definitely get paint over in this little zone as the guy's diving into the snake well before he's there. But it also threatens the middle. So be sure to do that. It'll work really, really well in every division. But you might find that you're picking up 1 kill off the break on the middle guy who's deciding to like take a knee or stand here in the middle, which definitely means that that's something we should be worried about. But just keep an eye on that. Okay. So as we said, running out here, this is a really decent gap to be shooting. I would, again, your chances of shooting the number 2 in this gap are much higher, but that's if the number 2 chooses to cross past this Aztec. Otherwise, you probably do have an okay shot at shooting the front guy, the runner, but it's gonna be tough. If he goes to the corner, your chances of shooting the snake runner are much higher, or excuse me, the Dorito runner. If he's running to the corner, that's a pretty decent shot for that. So the way that you can use that information to your advantage is if, for example, your Dorito guys kind of stand off the start box right here. I feel like MVPS has interesting pin placements. Well, it's funny. I feel like every division has very kind of like hallmark layouts that they do. At WCPPL is like hallmark is not a true back center. This last event was the first one they did in a long time where they had a true back center, but I don't know much about MVPSs, so but what you can do oftentimes is like your snake 1 guy in a tournament can stand out right here at the 5-second mark and go 5, 4, 3, and then run over and say what's going on in the Dorito. Oh, excuse me, this would be the Dorito side. So your Dorito 1 guy can stand out right here, look at the start box, and just pick up on if the Dorito guy is going to be running to the corner or running and gunning to the corner. So especially in lower divisions, even up until Division 2 in some cases, people actually telegraph very obviously what they're doing at the start box. So if you find that you're in a division where people are doing that, where they're kind of lining up with 5 seconds left and just that they're not changing what they're doing at all, then you Dorito 1 guys really do need to probably come out here and see if this Dorito guy, the front Dorito guy, is going to be running or gunning to his bunker. Okay, is he setting up with his gun ready to shoot back at you, or is he setting up in a running position? If you call Dorito gunner, then what that could tell your number 2 guy is, hey, I want you to come out to this bunker right here, and I want you to shoot for him running to the corner. And if you hear Dorito runner, then what that might tell you is, okay, well, maybe instead I'm gonna stop here in this dead zone, and I'm gonna shoot right here, because it might be worth the risk, right? If I can maybe kill one guy off the break and maybe trade my body, or hopefully not trade my body from somebody who's shooting up the middle, then we can score a quick kill as I then move out to my bunker. But it'll be easier to shoot the guy running to that bunker in this dead zone than it would be to try and run out and also shoot him. Okay, so that's a really easy way that you can like implement that information. But that again is up to you, Dorito 1 guys, to come out away from the start box, and then in the last like 3 seconds kind of come back over and get in position. You could possibly do it right here. You could probably do it just heads up, but the snake side is pretty guarded from telegraphed information, unless again you front snake guys want to stand all the way out here. Right here you could stand out and see what's going on. I always encourage people to do that. This is a really effective tactic to do if you're player coaching, because you don't have a sideline coach to shout any sort of calls at you to tell you what's going on. But it's also a really good practice that carries well into higher division play, to just be more informed about how people are lining up at the start box. And it's more effective at lower divisions, because again, people don't really change what they're doing off the break box, right? They just kind of line up. They're afraid of the timer. Most of the time people don't count down the timer in lower divisions. They're not actually going 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 and saying that out loud to their teammates, so people don't keep track of when the buzzer's going to go off, so on and so forth. Okay, let's look at the Dorito side now. So you obviously have a home shot, which is going to be a lot harder for you than it will be for them if the home guy decides to shoot at you right here. This is a trade, but this is probably at best a 40-60 in their favor, meaning that your chances of survival are 40% and their chances of survival are 60%, right? You have a 40% chance of hitting them and or surviving. Anyway, going out to this corner then, or going past this bunker, we have the next gap to clear, which is this one. And we established that if they decided to take a knee, this paint would be well on its way before we could get to this Aztec. So you have essentially 2 people to worry about, which does mean that as you front Dorito guys may be able to tell, try to see which way the home guy's looking, okay? If the home guy is not looking your way, like let's say you're the number 2 on the Dorito side and you're lining up and looking straight up and you towards the snake, then what you might consider doing is coming to this bunker right here and wrapping first and shooting paint, okay, and standing out essentially in this zone right here and then getting to this bunker, just depending on how your survivability looks. I wouldn't feel like you should do that right off the break. But if you find that the way that they're killing you going out to the Dorito side is in this gap right here, in the dead zone right here, then I would consider pausing and seeing what you can do. Freaking video buffering. I'm not sure what's going on with my internet, but I apologize. If we continue to go out even further, not a whole lot heads up. It really is just that cross shot. And I would say that these gaps are pretty small, that they'd be very difficult to hit on the run. You could hit this guy much more easily than you could this guy, because again, as we run out, let me illustrate it this way. As we run out to our bunker and shoot with our gun up, our paint is going to curve this way as we run, okay? And so as it does that, our chances of hitting somebody in this zone are much better than us hitting somebody right here, because our paint will likely go too far left of them. Okay, if we go further out, this is another big gap that's going to be hard to survive if they decide to play this dead zone. So scouting that dead zone is going to be key, but it's also going to be really hard to do. There's a few ways that you can know that that's what they're going to do, but there's a lot of ways in which you can't figure that out. And then running out to this Dorito, there's not really anything. If you cross these 2 zones, this zone right here and this zone here, you're clear for takeoff. You can go to the Dorito. You could probably even go to the Dorito 2, possibly even the Dorito 3, depending on how quickly you get there. And in fact, you could even take a route in which you run straight at the Dorito 3, it looks like. So that would be a much harder route to take, but especially because if the cross guy's shooting at you, you're even closer to him. But if the home guy is not looking your way and they haven't been shooting the cross shot, you're free to take off to the Dorito 3 right off the break. Again, scouting that dead zone guy on the snake side is going to be kind of hard, but there are a couple ways in which you can pick up on this. So if, for example, if you find that when you go to line up, again, the snake guys are going to have to be the ones that scout this. Your snake guys are going to have to come all the way out. Your snake 1 guy is going to have to come out to this window in the last 5 seconds to the point to even see this. But if you find that when they're lining up this direction, that they're holding their gun like this, okay, I know it's probably not oriented for how you are looking at this right now, but if they're holding their gun like this, it means that they're looking to just immediately pull up and shoot. If they're holding their gun like this, where the start box is, oh, sorry, you can't really see that, where the start box is over this way, and they're lining up like this, it means that they're probably going to run out, but it doesn't always mean that. And the reason is because the difference between having to cross, or let me just demonstrate this really fast. So let's say they were standing here, okay, and they were holding their gun like this. Well, if they're wanting to shoot this direction and their gun is on this side, then all they have to do is just pull up right here and shoot. If they're standing out over here, right? Well, hold on. I promise I graduated kindergarten. But if they're standing like this with their gun over here, well, if they wanted to shoot this direction, they have to cross a lot more of their body just to get the paint to go where they want it to. Okay? So that's kind of the reason why we can tell in some cases which direction they're going to be shooting. Not always, but sometimes. Okay. Hi, guys. I'm so sorry that the stream is buffering. I have no idea why. I haven't changed any settings. So hopefully it'll fix itself over time. Okay, let's look at now then let's look at the middle routes really quick. So if we were to just run up the middle, it's pretty safe, to be honest. And the tricky part is that running up the middle is actually pretty safe until right here. So if you, and in fact, it might even be safe up past that point. So if you ran up to the middle, you could actually put the paint onto this snake zone while running and keep that snake guy essentially suppressed, or, you know, potentially get a kill as you take positioning up the middle. The tricky part is that that they can do that as well, right? So then you have an immediate poison situation where you're just essentially trading a body, or you're hoping to get a 2-for-1 at the most. So I would probably say that if you plan to go up the middle off the break, or rather if you, how can I put this? It's kind of hard to make an if A then B statement in this case, but it might be worth it for you to pull up short on the snake side if you plan to send a guy up the middle. And the only reason is because if you're going to risk your middle guy's body up the middle, you don't want to also risk your snake guy's body, okay? Because if they, for example, match you, so let's say you decide, I'm going to run up the middle and I'm going to shoot for this snake zone. The best case scenario is that you kill this guy and you survive, okay? The second best case scenario is that you go up here, shoot the snake guy, and then you trade out with this dude, so you get a 2-for-1. Okay, whatever, 2-for-1. That's the next best case scenario. The third best case scenario is that you go here, you prevent them from getting into the snake, you don't get a kill, but then you trade out with the guy poison, right? But if we now add our snake guy into the mix of this, the worst case scenario would be for you to come here, not kill the snake guy, and then trade out with this dude, but you also lost this guy. Okay, that's essentially just flipping sides and understanding what it would be like if we did that to our opponents. So I would probably suggest that this middle push is really solid, super strong, but it's also really easy for them to do it as well. And you don't want to risk this body here, because that up the middle move they're going to make that move because they want to kill your snake guy. Okay, so if you're able to figure out if a team has tendencies of moving up the middle or not off the break, use that information to decide whether or not you want to send your snake guy off the break, and whether or not you want to match it. Because the other option is also that you don't match it up the middle and you do risk your snake guy out. You just do kind of like a standard breakout where you send the 3 here, you send the 2 here, and you send the 1 here. And if this one guy dies, then maybe this guy comes to the corner and then you fill in behind, or vice versa. The number 2 goes and becomes the snake, and then you go out to the corner. Again, you have to deal with the middle guy. But anyway, just things to consider. I don't have any strong statements about what the best thing is going to be to do. That's why you play the field. Looking Dorito way, then if we go, this is kind of an interesting little stopgap right here. Nobody can actually see you if you decide to make this route. So for example, let's say you decide to run up the middle and shoot Dorito way. You have essentially the same shots, but now you have a little bit more protection because you're further away from the middle. The middle guy can't just like immediately trade out with you, and you can still put paint right here in this gap as you run out. So if you want to shoot the Dorito side, I would probably suggest stopping at these pins for a second, and then you can either come up here and do your thing, which at this point you'd have to worry about this guy if he decided to play there, or you know, you could go around it and get here. But the nice thing also about playing in this spot is that you can protect against the move. So like if you go here looking this way, you can also protect yourself from any sort of moves that might be this off the break, or maybe the better route, excuse me. Maybe the better route would be something like this. I would suspect that this is actually a pretty decent bunker to take off the break, I would suspect. But because like, again, for example, if you run up the middle and then you dive with your head down, the guy that was going to shoot you is this cross guy right here. Remember, he's shooting Dorito way is our assumption, but he's going to shoot over you. And by the time you dive, you're going to be right here, right? If you Superman dive, you're actually in his blind zone, so that when you slide in, he can't see you. The tricky part is that you are kind of trapped. You can't, well, I guess you could, actually, you can back out. Okay. You can back out if you wanted to. I was going to say that guy's probably still going to see you. It's going to be tricky, but that's an option. That is definitely a move. And the way to prevent that move freely is to go up the middle and shoot Dorito way. From all these middle moves, it does look like a pretty decent bunker to stop people in is right here. It's not actually, it's not great. It's a very small gap, but if you notice that they are sending guys up the middle a lot, you could either stop them by running to the corner on the snake side and shooting here, or you could stop them by sending a guy, the number 2 on the Dorito, up here and shooting this gap. This is a very, very small gap, and you'd have to shoot paint, like you'd have to shoot a lot of paint through it. But that is an option. It looks like it's like not a great option, but it is there. So those are 2 options to stop the middle. I wouldn't probably plan. I guess you could stop the middle if you went here as well. If you survive, this might be the heads up battle that you fight that becomes the 50-50. If you find that they're staying really disciplined on this cross shot in this dead zone, that they're shooting this way every time, then I would suggest that you just shoot back at them as you run out to this Aztec and try to make this as close of a 50-50 as possible. Because if you survive it, let's say they're in the gap right here, they've taken a knee and they've started to shoot at you, and you actually survive this. Well, now all you have to do is come up over the top and shoot him if he's still here. Or if he's like, oh crap, I gotta move, and he's gonna take a huge bite up the middle, maybe even to stop at these pins. Well, now you can pull up right here and shoot this little inside zone, and kill him that way, which is definitely a viable response. Okay, so we've looked at the middle on that side. We didn't really look at this wing. This appears to be kind of a more protected middle route. Again, if you wanted to shoot the Dorito side, you could do that. Heads up snake. You could do snake 3 off the break. So if you decided to run here, you could either dive here, which is really safe. That's super safe. Or you could dive into the snake 3. But again, the snake, the home guy is probably the one that's going to be shooting at you. And this is a very different gap. To be fair, this is a very, very different gap here than it is to be shooting back here, or even right here. These are all 3 different gaps that you have to account for. So that's definitely an option. It seems to be that scouting is even more so important in knowing whether they're going to... I mean, it's going to be hard to scout this, right? This deep route, the way that you would tell if they're going to take this deep route is if when you line up, which you guys should probably have calls for this, if you find that their number 1 is lining up here, well, their options for where they're going to go is here, here, or here, right? And you want to protect yourself from the snake run. So in that case, your home guy is probably going to just shoot his paint in this gap. But if you find that the number 2 is lining up here and the number 1's lining up here, well, now all of a sudden, that's, well, danger. That might be that they're going for this inside route. And this is a great segue into a little hot tip for you. This is the reason why when you watch pro games, a lot of times the number 2s will be lined up on the outside and the number 1s will be on the inside. This is kind of how they'll line up. And that's because if the number 2 wants to shoot heads up, even running out to the corner, he can still do so while the snake runs underneath him, right? These two can do just this, just like that. But it's a lot harder to scout this because it's not obvious what they're going to do here if you play against a really good team. Whereas if you play against kind of like a not so good team and they telegraph a lot what they do and they don't line up this way normally, well, now when they line up this way, it's a tell that they're going to go here. So if you get lower division guys want to like make it very difficult to know what people are going to do or to make it hard for your opponents to scout you, you should almost always line up like this, where your number 1's on the inside. This still gives your number 1 plenty of room to run if you wanted to go to the corner, and this guy kind of floats out right here and then comes this way. It gives plenty of room for him to go to the snake and for him to, again, float out right here and then come up. Lots of room, okay? Things to consider. All right, let's look at the snake, and then we'll look at the Dorito, and then we'll be done. So the only thing I ever do, guys, just so you know, I mean, I don't feel like I have to always say this, but just to be clear, there's always going to be little tricky gaps and things to be aware of, especially as you find out where people tend to play on the field, right? We don't know which bunker people are going to play on the Dorito side all the time, if it's going to be that they're going to just stop at the Dorito 1, or if they're going to try to take that Dorito 3 bite off the break every time. Because if, for example, we know that they're going to take the Dorito 3 off the break every time, but they're going to do it, let's say, after the first 5 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds of the point, well then, in this case, sliding into the snake 1 and coming up here and shooting this gap is going to be very valuable, right? Right now, there's no free kills. There's no guaranteed kills. That's what we primarily look for when we walk these fields, is to know who's our first target when we get to this bunker. And in this case, we don't have a first target, but we do have a gap that would prevent a deep Dorito bite off the break. You could as well shoot this gap if you wanted. This is the Dorito 2 right here. So if you wanted to stop them from getting to the Dorito 2, you could do that. But in my opinion, I would probably just hedge my bet and prevent them from getting into the Dorito 3, then potentially shooting for the Dorito 2, missing, and them taking the Dorito 3. Okay, so that's a pretty decent gap, so long as you just be mindful of your loader and where it's at, because you don't want to get it clipped by the home guy. But if you come up here, shoot this right off the break, maybe shoot that for like 10-20 balls, and then go heads up, you're probably okay. Otherwise, if you do stop here, you do have a little bit of a heads up battle, and you want to know as a snake guy where this dude is, especially if you take that inside shot. So you need your number 1 behind you to tell you if you do this inside shot. Otherwise, if you get here, the thing that we're also looking for as we move up on either side of the field is to know what's going to be the problematic bunkers or things to stop us. Okay, so the heads up is always there, almost always. The wing is going to be a problem if their number 2 takes this bite. So just try to pay attention to what teams are doing. But otherwise, the home guy can't see you. So it looks like the hard part about this move right here is that if they do take the wing off the break, he's going to kill you. But he probably has to be shooting his paint right away, right? Because this is a pretty small gap. Even though this gap does exist, it's pretty small. He could probably respond to you depending on how quickly you slide into that bunker. But this is going to be a hard bump to take freely because of that guy. To stand. I guess you can't really stand because the home guy can kill you. It might be that you put this dude in and then you stand right. You kind of come right here and edge, because who's going to shoot you? If the number 2 decided to take this mini W, then these are your 2 heads up people. The home guy can't see you. This guy's probably not going to be shooting cross at you. It's possible, but anyway, man, I don't know why my stream is having such a hard time today. Okay, so then let's look at this inside shot right here. The can is a pretty good first shot to take, but not a guaranteed kill, and it doesn't appear that there's really anything else for you to shoot at. So if you go here, it's probably to bait somebody. So if you come here and you want to like surprise the wide snake 1 guy, you could post up right here and wait for this, but I don't know if the inside route's very good. Again, if you tried to go to the snake 50, the home guy might be able to see you, but these 2 bunkers are now going to be problems. But again, that's if these guys are going to be looking cross on you, which I would assume these people are going to be looking heads up. These 2 bunkers right here are probably going to be looking Dorito way, but something to also consider. Otherwise, you don't really have... I mean, I guess the back center could shoot you potentially, but if you get in a low crawl right here, they would be hitting your pack at best. So be mindful of the can. You might just shoot some paint here really quick and then go. But otherwise, again, the wing is the big key bunker right here that's going to stop that. So then if you get here, your first kill is for sure this guy. I mean, if they're here, that's the first guy. But this is a guaranteed kill, and we're concerned about guaranteed kills along the back line, right? Because it's pretty easy. Like if we get to the 50, it's very easy for us to generally on most layouts kill whoever's also in the 50. But those aren't shots that we need to like super consider because they're very open. But if you want to know how to be super dangerous and effective as a front snake or front Dorito guy, you want to know what the first kills are that you take against the back line. So this is almost a guaranteed kill right here. You're probably at the very least going to shoot someone's pack. You might be able to kill the Dorito guy as well, depending on how far back from his bunker he's playing. He or she, I should say. And yeah, I would say that that's also a guaranteed kill. That's a mini Dorito that, yeah, I think you could kill that person unless they played the edge of the Dorito side of that bunker. You might be able to clip a guy right here behind this Aztec in the Dorito, but it looks mostly protected. So your first shots when you come up should be maybe this guy first, then this guy second. Otherwise, you can shoot this guy first and then come here second. And obviously, if this guy's right there, just take him. So that's at the 50. Anything past the 50, it's just next packs and backs, right? We don't need to like necessarily know what those shots are. The only thing to consider is that if you are here and you're stuck and you can't wrap, you need to figure out who it is that's shooting at you from the inside. If I was here and I'm just getting hounded on my bunker from this angle right here. Oh, excuse me. You can't really see that. If there's a bunch of paint like spreading, you know, coming off of this part of the bunker right here, who is it that's likely shooting at me? Well, depending on the harshness of that angle and the harshness of the paint, like if the paint, for example, is flying this direction, it's probably that the juice box is the one shooting at me. Okay. If it's flying off this direction, I know it's pretty exaggerated, then it's probably the home guy, right? So depending on what that is, you might decide to stand up and shoot to check those guys off, and then come and own that. As soon as you get them to flinch, come out here, own that, and then just you've controlled the snake. This is super strong bunker to control those two guys heads up from you, assuming that there isn't a snake one guy. If there's a snake one guy that's like right in front of you, that's going to be a problem. It does appear that, okay, so there is a bounce shot, absolutely, and it's from two bunkers. So I don't normally cover bounce shots because I feel like those are always subject to change. You should just try them. But it does appear that there are two bounce shots that can come from either of these two people that are going to bounce into this bunker. So that's a pretty interesting placement for that. I would be very, very careful about that. They could possibly shoot it here and it bounced this direction to prevent you from taking this bite. But I don't know if I would go here, to be honest. It might be the leapfrog that you have to make, for example. Like it might be that when you get to this bunker, you have to go this way for it to be super safe. But just be aware that this bounce shot very likely, like with almost 90% certainty, is there. So okay, this middle bunker is just kind of like a whatever bunker. I don't know if I would play this, except, you know, you might be able to do some stuff with this, but that's kind of a closing bunker. Let's finish off with the Doritos side then and come over here. We already looked at this number 2 spot. Nothing heads up. You can't really even stop the Dorito 3 or Dorito 2 to Dorito 3 move because it's completely blinded. You might be able to clip a pack if they, you know, if they take the bite right away, but this is not a great bunker to stop in, it looks like. This is a good bunker to leapfrog into though, so you could come here. You could come here and shoot here, threatening the Dorito 1 to Dorito 2 move. You're not stopping the Dorito 2 to the Dorito 3 move though, because it's right here, right? So there's not a whole lot of angles on that move. I'm curious to know. This middle guy can see it for sure. That guy can't. Dorito 1 can't. Who can? Who can see that? Is it just this? So it appears... Is that right? Yeah, wow. Okay, so the snake 1 is the only guy that can reliably see this move from the Dorito 2 to the Dorito 3. Unless you play this really sloppily, right? This bunker might be able to clip you because, again, if you run too high, that move you might get you killed. But otherwise, the Dorito 2 is a bunker you don't need to stop in. You should just take this, like, hug the bunker on the right and then just take this bite right here. Especially do it low. So use the Dorito 2 as a stopgap, but don't get stopped there. The only person that's, excuse me, gonna kill you is the snake. So if you're trying to beat them, if you're trying to beat the snake 1 on the Dorito side, you have to just know if you're faster into that bunker or not. If you took, I don't know, if you took the Dorito 2 off the break. So for example, if you ran around right here and then dove, you should just go right away. The snake is not going to be able to see you in time. But if you dove into this Dorito 2 and you hesitated at all, this move is no longer free because that snake guy can kill you. So that's pretty interesting. I think that snake cross shot is going to be pretty important in stopping the Dorito from instantly getting to Dorito 3. But we'll look at that here a little bit more. So you have a little bit of a heads up. If you go low, you just have to worry about blind shots and like random shots bouncing into your hopper. But like if you get low enough, the only person that it looks like you have to worry about is this guy if he decides to clear. Otherwise, wow, the Dorito 1 to Dorito 2 is free. I mean, you do have a little bit of a gap to worry about from this guy, but that's a pretty tough shot. That's a small crack. It might be bigger at the tournament or at your local field, but it looks like these first 2 Doritos are bunkers you should probably try to get out of, which again, if you're trying to get out of it freely, then that snake cross shot is super important. It also means that the middle push is a lot more of a threat to the Dorito people, which means that you need to have a call for that immediately. So let's say, for example, let's say that, okay, we're going to imagine that we are on this side of the field, okay? And let's say that they started to send their front guy up the middle. And let's say you ran a guy out to the corner, running and gunning towards that middle. And whether or not you shot him doesn't matter. You need to have a call that says this guy's somewhere in the middle. And for us, it's red alert. So red alert means there's somebody in the middle. I don't know where they stopped. I don't know where they're at. But that should tell your front Dorito guy that if he even survives this gap right here, he is no longer free to take these free bites that we talked about. Okay? Because otherwise, if there's nobody in the middle and you're fast enough, you're probably going to beat the snake 1 guy before he can stop you in this gap. Probably. That's just a race, right? That's definitely a race. It's one that either people could beat each other into, but that's something to consider. The Dorito guy should not concern himself with this snake cross shot. You might have to shoot it to get the snake guy to flinch to go here if you take too long, but otherwise you probably just need to like play heads up. Because if the snake guy is staying dedicated on you in the cross, it means he's not moving on the snake. So you're just essentially gridlocked in these 2 positions according to what the snake guy wants to do. And that's totally fine. Because you just have to wait it out, right? You don't need to risk your body. So otherwise, let's see what's so fancy about the Snake 3. So Snake 3s can see each other in a kind of an awkward blind, like standing tall position. So you can potentially kill each other if you just shoot paint right there. You might clip a head, you might clip a hopper, but if you get low enough, you might be safe, again, depending on the field. Your first challenge is going to be this bunker here, or potentially this bunker, depending on where they went. But very likely that back Aztec bunker. And then your next gap to fill is this big one right here, which is very threatening from the home player's position or potentially the can's position. But I would suspect that if that guy was in the can and you... Well, maybe not, actually. There's a lot of places that can guy could go, but... those are the first problems to be solved. So you don't even need to worry about the Dorito guy unless you don't have any containment on him from... So, for example... Whether, let's say let's say they killed your guy behind you and you got to this Dorito 3. Well, now you have to really worry about this guy who matched you just running you down. Okay, because if you're getting stopped by this guy in this inside battle, this dude can easily come and run you down with very little stoppage, except for maybe the home guy looking your way. But we decided that the home guy is probably going to be looking snake way off the break. Okay. So just be aware, if you home guys hear Dorito 3, maybe consider looking over Dorito way and just putting paint in this gap from Dorito 3 to Dorito 4. This big gap right here. This middle cluster is like okay. I don't I'm sure the thing about these clusters, which I'm not going to spend much time analyzing, is that you can get lost in these, and that's probably the biggest value they are. You know, there's obviously spots you can hold people in, like you could hold people from the Dorito 1 to the Dorito 2, but this is a hard position to hold them doing that. And the problem is that you're completely blind to what's going on the inside of the field, in which case they can just match you in your bunker. And now you both are kind of in danger of running each other down. So, okay, I think that's it. When you get to this bunker, you don't have a free kill in the Dorito 3. Getting here, you don't have a free kill except for maybe the juice box. That might be a free kill, but otherwise, I mean, you're gonna put the home guy on his heels for sure. But no free kills until you get to like their side. The Dorito seems to be a side that you can blow open the field from because people can't see you very well because of this middle like cluster bunkers. So my suggestion is just to get as far up the Dorito as you can by checking off the middle guy and then blowing open the point by getting to their Dorito 4. As far as the snake is concerned, there's that cross shot. Otherwise, it's pretty standard in moving up the snake side to the snake 50. The snake 50 is a very strong bunker. So I would say that probably the key moves or bunkers to worry about. These areas are super important to be aware of. Sorry, I know it's kind of like it's not on all one side, but it would be very important to know if the guys are lining up to like they're going up the middle or if they're in the middle. And this Dorito 3 positioning is very important to know of. And then this snake 50 is also really strong, but every snake 50 is generally strong. But this gap right here is super, super strong. So, okay, that's it. That should be everything. So if you guys have any other questions about the layout, feel free to ask me in the Discord server. We're out of time. I got to go do the other stream now for the SPL layout, but I'm always happy to answer questions. I don't generally do breakouts for like actual detailed breakouts for layouts other than like big NXL events, just because it takes me a lot of time to actually like really think about these breakouts and different things you can do. But I'm always happy to answer specific questions in the Discord server. So feel free to join and ask me there if you do have any more questions. But otherwise, thanks guys so much for watching. If you learned something, please comment down below. Let me know what you learned. It always helps the channel out a great deal. So anyway, again, no stream this Thursday. I'll be going into my next stream here in just a second. But thanks guys so much for watching. PB Ninja, thanks for being here. And I will see you guys later. Bye.